takes a while.
Okay, I think it started.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So today I will be teaching the math lesson to you students, I guess. So what we're going to do today is relate volume to the operations of multiplication and addition and solve real-world and mathematical problems involving volume. Now, I have wrote a student-friendly goal that we can all say together to help us remember it. I will be writing this on the board. I will be able to solve real-world problems using addition and multiplication in relation to volume operations. And then you would all say it, but it's not written, so I don't expect you to remember it, but the class would say it. The technique that I'm using today is an interactive whiteboard so that they can kind of have 3D shapes to work with to kind of interact with volume and see it visually. I have Quizlet that can keep track of all the definitions that are involved with volume and other stuff. And then rectangular prism pieces, actually just like regular right prism pieces that have like triangle ends and square ends that students can kind of build and kind of see what prisms look like. And then a physical vocabulary packet that has all their definitions that they write in it. And then they can transfer that to Quizlet later or so. So my strategies are going to be modeling in the beginning and then offering a flipped classroom video in the class discussion board that they can watch at home because it said to incorporate the flipped for this week. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's start with like about a minute or so and let's review. So let's review what is area. Okay, so like technically they would have learned this already, and one of the students would have looked in their vocab and they would have said the amount of space taken up in a 2-day and like the amount of space covering a 2D shape by 1 squares, and they're measured in square units because it's 1 by 1. Now let's go over what is the area of a rectangle. Let's all look on our vocab packets. Someone say it. Say it. Area of a rectangle. Okay, it would be base times height, and then area of a square is, and then base times height, and then I'd be like, okay, now what's the area of a triangle? They already have the vocab packet. We're just reviewing because it will help with volume. Base times height divided by 2, or half the base times height for an area of a triangle. And remember, all these units are in, and then they'd say square units, you know, and yeah. So that means units squared with a little 2. So now we're going to go into volume. Now, does anyone have any ideas what volume is? Anyone? There's someone sees.
Oh, you want us to? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like cubed, like the units cubed.
Oh yeah, very good, Maya. And then yeah, so someone share out some of their ideas and be like, okay, now I'm going to post on the board what the definition is, and I want you all to write it in your vocab packets. So it's the amount of space occupied by an object, or how many 1 by 1 by 1 cubes can fit into something. And this is measured in, as Maya said to us, cubic units. So that means that whatever the units is, inches, feet, centimeters, etc., cubed. So that's to the 3rd power, since we're doing 1 by 1 by 1, 3. So now I'm going to go over, and then volume can be used to solve lots of real-world problems, such as what size of building you want to build to put things in, or even how much cereal is in your box of cereal that you eat every morning. That would be the volume of cereal in that, or the volume of the box that the cereal goes in. It is your responsibility today to solve some of those real-world volume problems. But you need the tools and knowledge to be able to do it first, right? Because we don't know anything about volume except for its definition. So then I would flip my slide, and I said that area is related to volume, and you need to know area in order to solve volume. So see, that's like the first step. We already know that. So I'm going to talk to you about the first shape. It's a right rectangular prism. So I've showed the definition of a right prism on the board. So a right prism is a solid 3D object with 2 parallel bases with rectangular faces. Prisms always have rectangular faces, right? Because its faces are perpendicular and parallel. This is what one looks like. This is horrible. It's right there. That is a right prism. Actually, it's a right rectangular prism because its name involves its base. So if it has this rectangular base, like top and bottom, it would be a rectangular prism. If it has a triangular base, it's a triangular prism. So, but the sides are always rectangles in a prism. It's just the bases that could be any shape, really. So, let's start with, okay, and I want you guys to write this down in your vocab packet. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to show you a bunch of different prisms. I've already told you about the triangle. I cannot draw. Triangular and rectangular and square is all we're really going to worry about today. Okay, and now let's only focus on the bases of the shape. This is our first part. So remember with area, we talked about 2 dimensions. It's because it's base times height in a rectangle. So that's 2 things. So that means that it would be squared. Whereas volume, how many do we focus on?
3.
3, cool. So that means that's the area of the base. So that's a base times the height. And then it's times the height of the whole thing. So that would be 3, right? Okay. So then I would move on and show them an example problem. It is a, where is it? Okay. It is a right rectangular prism. Yeah. That is 2, the square on the top is 2 feet by 5 feet, and then the whole height is 8 feet. So you would do your base times your height of the square. So that would be 2 times 5. So that would equal 2 times 5.
10.
Equals 10. Feet, what?
Square.
Yeah, squared. Perfect. Then you times it by the height of the whole thing, which is 8. So you take 10 feet squared times 8 feet, and that equals
80.
80.
Feet.
Square.
Not squared.
Cube.
Yes.
Cube.
Good job, Maya. Not for Maya. Perfect. So that's how you do it. You find the area of that base and you times by the whole height. Okay, we're going to do one that's a triangle because we know that this one's different. So we have a right triangular prism that I would show on the board. It has the triangle itself has a height of 4 and a base of 3, and then the whole thing has a height of 10. So we would start with the base of the triangle. So 3 times 4 divided by 2 is
6.
6 feet.
Okay.
Squared.
Squared. Yes, nice job. And then we would times that by the whole height, which is 10 feet. So 6 feet squared times 10 feet is
60.
60.
feet.
Feet.
Cubed.
Yeah. Good job. Woo, you guys got it. So that's kind of like my guided practice with them. And then I would, now we're going to do one more problem together. So it's a story problem. So this one's going to involve real world. I'm going to go over it with you guys and we're going to help each other solve it, okay? Before I let you guys go on your own. So here's the story. I would have this written for visual, like on the board. The dimensions of rectangular prism are 8 by 4 by 10 of a greenhouse. How much volume does it have to put the plants in? So 8 by 4 by 10. How would you go about solving that?
You would times them all
It'd be
together.
better if I had a picture. I have it drawn kind of.
You would times them all together. Right?
Yes, you would. Yeah, because you'd start out with the 8 times the 4 of the base. This is hard to do online. I'm sorry. 8 times 4 of the base of this rectangle, and then times it by the whole height of 10. So it would be 8 times 4 feet is
36.
32.
32.
32.
very good. And then you times it by 10. So how much cubic feet would that be?
320.
Yeah. Yes. Good job, Mara. So 320 feet cubed. So very good. I would ask different kids and stuff. Okay. Now we're all gonna go on. I have 3 stations set up for all you students, and you're gonna go to one for about 5 minutes each. And then I hand you all a worksheet that has some real world problems on it. And the first one is laptop, where they can go on Quizlet and they can input all those definitions that we just learned about prisms and volume and stuff that they're probably still joggling in their brain. And then they're gonna review them and also review old area terms as well. The second station is going to be a table with pieces of like prisms pieces. Like you can have triangular bases, square bases, rectangular bases, but then they're kind of build them and kind of see what that all looks like. And then they can also, then the worksheet will ask them to make different kinds of prisms with those pieces and then give them real world situation problems with the prism that they made. So they build like a rectangular prism and be like, okay, this is like a dog kennel. What's the volume of it, right? And it would give like dimensions and then they'd solve it. Then the third station, the students will get to work with an interactive whiteboard so they can kind of build their shapes and use their worksheet to work with each other to create the prisms and solve real world volume problems. And with that worksheet tells them what to build and then gives them stuff. And then I would go around the room and kind of like monitor like if everyone's doing right, if the kids on the laptops are actually, reviewing instead of, I don't know, Googling something, or I'm pretty sure I'd block that somehow. There's ways, but I don't know. But and then I'd go to the table, make sure like, oh, like you guys understand like what you're trying to build, like a right triangular prism, like it has triangular bases, and then the square, and then the rectangular sides, and then the interactive whiteboard I would kind of check to see. Like this interactive whiteboard is good because students have motor skill problems. They would benefit because it might be hard for them to build the thing. So I figured they'd have to just watch their peers do it and kind of learn from that. But I feel like the interactive whiteboard, they could actually like, it'd be easier for them to, do all that. And then definitely in the beginning when I'm talking about, I forgot to like talk about differentiation, but in the beginning, I would like positively reinforce students who are participating and, positive feedback stuff. And maybe give like, my class tokens that I have or something, students who, just to get them to kind of pay attention and stuff. This is a 5th grade class. So, it's kind of, they can get kind of distracted. And then they are going to kind of do that, walk around. You guys are all doing that. Yay, that you guys are getting your worksheet done. And then at the end of the lesson, I would have my students all get back in their desks. And then I would have them turn to an elbow partner and have them discuss volume and how they solved real world problems with them from that worksheet. And then I would listen in and I would note those who maybe aren't explaining it the right way or like need more, remediation or understanding of it. And then like students who are understanding the concepts. And then I would tell the students that a PowerPoint is shared in our class folder and they can go back and they can look at all those definitions. And also I have some really cool videos on volume that they can practice with at home or at school, flipped classroom, so if they needed more time or, stuff like that. And then the formative assessment would be that. And then also the worksheets that I collected and kind of the discussion at the end. So that would kind of end our lesson on volume on prisms. I didn't want to go into pyramids. I felt like that would take longer than 20 minutes because it only said 15 and 20-minute lessons. So I didn't want to do pyramids because that stuff's weird. So yeah, so today it's just going to be right prisms and the different shapes and stuff. So I guess that's it on that. And yeah. And I guess, yeah, I don't know.
Good. I think you did a good job with explaining everything and like trying to show us actually like.
I know. I'm sorry.
No. It was good. It was good. Yeah, I think you were thorough in what you were talking about.
Yeah, you were definitely like teaching us rather than just telling us like what I did. I feel like I told you guys what I was doing rather than teaching you. So you did good. You did really good.
Yeah. I really like that you did the student-friendly plan too at the beginning, so that kind of made it more real.
Yeah, like their goal. Yeah, like their goal that they can say and they can kind of look at what they know what they want to accomplish at the end of the lesson, and it's kind of like a visual thing for them. Like if kids are seeing what they want to accomplish, they tend to want it more. I think. I don't know. It's kind of a thing I learned in educational psychology. So I don't know.
No,
but yeah. Any other thoughts, or are we good? Yeah, I kind of try to do more UDL. I had like different stations and stuff, so options, and then my formative assessment. I had lots of different assessments, and then obviously, like in the beginning, if students had like disabilities, like hearing, I would obviously have a microphone or something. Like it was just hard because I don't know what student. I don't really know what disabilities are in my classroom because it's not a real classroom. So it's like, but obviously, if I had, I would accommodate. So, that's that. I guess we can move on to our discussion on the actual flipped classroom.
Okay.
So, like, what did we think of those videos that we watched before we share what we found?
I thought it was kind of interesting. I never really knew that there was like a definition for a different classroom, so that was like new to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really different. Like, I've never really seen that before. I kind of remember teachers trying to do it when I was in elementary school, I think. I can't remember if it was actually it, though. I remember they were trying to do something with, like, doing something at home that involved kind of, like, going online, but I don't think I ever did it, because I don't know. Because, like, back then, the internet wasn't as good as it is today, so.
Right.
Probably it, too.
I personally don't really remember any of my classrooms being considered a flipped classroom, just because, like you said, technology has only grown, and it wasn't as common and normal back when we were in elementary school, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I personally don't really remember having a flipped classroom ever.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a fully flipped one. I think, like, maybe they tried to incorporate some things, but I don't think it stayed.
Yeah.
I think I've had one that may have tried it, like, when I was in high school, but I don't think that really, I don't know if he really knew what he was doing, so I don't think it really worked out that well. But I thought it was interesting, like, an approach to see how it really, if it actually does help students be more successful in the class or not. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, none of my schools ever used it, so this was a new concept for me.
Yeah, I really, I don't know. I think I liked it. I felt like, I don't know. It feels like it's a lot more work, but maybe it's actually decreasing work in kind of a way. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I'm just not very good with technology, so that kind of stuff would probably freak me out as a teacher. I'd probably have to practice it a lot to, like, make things, because I'm not good.
Yeah.
I could totally.
Oh, go for it.
Oh. I could totally see it working though, and like I could see myself using it, even though I want to teach younger kids, so it wouldn't really work. But if I was like to be in that older like age level, I totally could see myself using it. I feel like it's a really effective way to let kids go at their own pace.
Yeah, I think we need to. That's important. Like for younger kids, I don't know. Like, I don't think they have that like motivation.
Attention span.
I mean, let's be honest. Kids just kind of want to have fun. Like, I don't think they want to spend their time at home. I mean, not all. Like some of them probably would, but like most of them probably won't. So it's like hard to like regulate that with younger children. But older ones like junior high or even like 6th grade, 5th grade, high school, I think it would be effective. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I like the use of videos because, like, I feel like I get a lot of information from them because I can, like, fast forward and, like, rewind when I miss something, and it's just easy for me to concept that. But like you said, like, for little kids, like, they just have a short attention span, and they're not going to want to pay attention to a video. So it's like, I feel like the classroom can only work for, like, certain grade levels and above, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Also, I liked what it said about it helping the teacher be more of a facilitator than like someone say like there's like a thing called sage on the stage or guide on the side saying it lets the teacher maybe not have to spend so much time teaching and like more of going over things and maybe correcting things, or students that really don't get it, they can spend that time with them, and the students that do get it can kind of move on or practice it more. So I think it's efficient in that.
Yeah, it definitely lets the kids go at like more of their pace, I guess. So that is good. And it like the educators are like away from being the center of attention, so that's kind of nice. But then it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's what a teacher should be doing, is being the center of attention. So it's like, I don't know. It's I like I said, I've never seen it happen, so I'm like curious as to how it would really work from my perspective. I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, like I liked in the videos like how it did show that the teacher was going around and making sure everyone kind of understood and like took questions at that time instead of like like kind of like lecturing, but again, is that the best for every teacher or every classroom? I don't know because I've never really seen it before. So I think that would just have to be like, I guess, personal, I guess, level to see whether it works or not, or a school thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to see like a teacher do it and kind of like probably learn from that. Because it'd be hard to like just like create on my own, like from scratch.
Definitely.
Okay, so I guess if anyone else want to add anything to that before we start sharing out our videos.
No, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we covered pretty much we covered like it, like we mentioned the UDL because like it does offer multiple means of engagement.
Right.
So that's UDL like altogether, you know. It differentiates because like you said, it can pause and rewind and go at a slower pace if they need it, or they can kind of just, they don't have to review it as much if they know it.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to our videos, who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, so I chose a video from like the same two guys that we watched. And it says it was like what a flipped class looks like.
Is that the model one?
I don't know. It had like the 5 like tips or 5. I don't know.
Oh, good. Okay. That's not mine.
Okay. So the 5 tips that I learned from that video was the first one was about access. And so it was pretty much telling you how to give everyone access to like the material that they are needing, because not everyone has an internet. So they gave you ideas like to use flash drives, and then like you could check those out to students so that way like those who don't have internet access can use them on their computer. Or you could burn like the contents onto DVDs, and so that way the kids can watch them like on their TV rather. And so like you could check those out to students as well. So they were just giving you different options, so that way you weren't sticking to one primary thing. And then the second one was giving them tips on how to watch the videos, so that way they were like learning about them effectively and not just like watching and not engaging. So they were just pretty much saying like the length of a video should be 1 to 1.5 minutes per grade level. So like for 10th grade, it was like 6 to 10 minutes, and then like lowers down from there. So that was interesting, I thought, because I didn't want to make the video too long and unbearing, so students like didn't lose interest.
Yeah, let's see on that one.
And then the third one was talking about safeguards. And so like, because they mentioned like, what if kids don't watch the video before the class period? And then they're like, well, as educators, like you're going to run into people not doing homework all the time. So like, you're going to see that happen. But like, to make sure that they are watching the videos, you would give them like, they would have to have like entrance tickets. So like, I mean, obviously they would still be able to enter the classroom, but like before walking into the classroom, you wouldn't be able to know who did or who didn't do it. So that would be like their first like gateway in. You could do like a Google Docs online to collect the data to see who like still did it, or just like make them write notes, and then when they walk in, like look at the notes that they took from the video so they knew that they watched it. They talk about like not making the online videos like perfect, because there's no such thing as a perfect lesson plan. They were just giving you like effective ways of how to like make sure you have good lighting, like a nice area to work, you talk clearly, and all that stuff. And then also when they talked about being perfect, they mentioned that you don't have to flip the whole classroom. Like you could even just flip like the unit or lesson that you're working on. So that way not the whole class has to be like the flipped class. It can just be like a certain section. And then they talked about like starting small. So when you first flip your class, make sure you find like the best place to flip it and where people are like more understanding in subjects, rather than trying to flip like the hardest like one to begin with. So that was pretty much it. So it was just like overcoming like hurdles of what flipping a classroom is. So
yeah,
I actually watched that same one.
You did?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know what to do in that situation.
I mean, just build off it, I guess, if you have anything different.
Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you can go if you want, and like kind of just build off and
Yeah.
might as well. Same video, might as well not.
Well, I mean, don't we have to talk about 2 videos?
I don't know. I only did one.
So
I did 2, so I can talk about a different one.
Okay.
Yeah, then do a different one then. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, she said to do 2, probably just in case we did one. I don't know, the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll just go next then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the other one that I did was also done by those same guys, and it was on like the formative assessment within those kind of classrooms. And it said it kind of like stopped them from taking home papers to home to grade, so it kind of freed up their own time to focus on that class time assessment instead of doing those papers and like getting the kids, because kids won't be like so involved in those papers and those worksheets while they're in class. So it kind of helps not only the student but the teachers as well. And then it allows all the students to get their questions in that they needed, and you can answer and walk around and discuss those. And so that way you can figure out like where exactly each student is struggling, and you can get them moving along at the pace that they need. Whereas like if you're in like a normal classroom setting that's not flipped, you can only go a certain pace in order to teach all the students at one time. And then you can also get like a different type of feedback from the students, because while they're working in class, you're able to see exactly where they're struggling. You can pinpoint all those different questions and that they had from all those videos. And that's because that was a really short video too. So that's all I had on that one.
Okay.
That's good. I can go next.
Okay.
So I guess the one I did, it was called flipped classroom model. So like kind of like Lauren's, like hers more like explain. Mine kind of like showed it, and then it gave like 8 steps to have a successful flipped classroom. So like it's diagrams it explains like why do we flip a classroom, because content availability, so like more access, and then video formatting, because they can pause and rewind and stuff and kind of rewatch it. Sometimes like have you ever had like during like a lecture where like they threw something, sorry, they like said something and then you didn't really understand it and you kind of wish they could go back, but you didn't want to like tell them to go back. So I feel like with like a video and stuff, you can go back and like rewatch it if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Laramie mentioned, it frees up time for individual work, so the students have more time to do more stuff in class, I feel like, than just doing like assignments and worksheets and stuff, and they have more time to actually like interact with the learning and learn new things. And then it talked about how like it's important because like today kids are constantly learning things on phones and computers. And I know I hate to admit it, but like 6-year-olds have like phones now. It's crazy. They shouldn't, but anyway, different. Like we talked about that and just like, well, why not incorporate school with them? I mean, I have some like opinions on that, but it's not important. But like, yeah, it makes sense because like if it's a tool that we can use to further their education, but it shouldn't be the only thing. Definitely not. But so also it differentiates learning. It accommodates for students who do have like disabilities, because if they're slower like learning or like figuring out, they can review and go back and stuff. And so it listed 8 steps. So one is like the buy-in, like how are you going to get all the students and the teachers on board? What kind of like convincing skills you're going to use? How are you going to like advertise it? Then the next one is like allocate your resources. Like what are you going to let the students use? You're going to let them like take flash drives home, like Lauren mentioned, or like discs home, or how are you going to do that? Like with laptops, you have to have good class management. Like with anything, you have to have management skills, or else it's going to be unorganized and crazy. the teacher himself or herself needs technical training. So like they need to learn how to use the technology or else it's not going to work. They need to assign the content for homework. So like they need to assign what they want to be done for homework and then make sure it's done. So like an entrance pass, like Lauren mentioned. And then students can also have the option maybe to work on it during class, like the homework. If they have like free time and they want to do it. If they don't want to do it at home, maybe they should have time to do it. And then have them kind of work to start doing just this independently without having to be reminded. And then the next step was peer tutoring. So now the students have themselves have a grasp so they can help each other out. Yeah. So talks about tools like using Google Docs, slides, YouTube, social media, all that jazz. So pretty much just elaborated the flip model.
Nice.
Well, okay. I don't know if I like done the video that I saved was okay. Like it kind of just like compared to like the traditional model people like use and like the flip model, and like it showed basically like how in a flipped classroom that students were more engaged in their learning and had like more time to like ask questions of the teacher, and the teacher was able to provide them with more of like one-on-one help with those, whereas like in like a traditional classroom, like it showed like, oh well, the teacher basically just like lectures for the majority of the class, and there's like not very much time, if any at all, for students to really like ask or get that additional help while they're there in the class, and then they go home and are struggling with the material. But in the flipped classroom, we see that the instructor is like involved and engaged with students, and like not necessarily standing in front of the classroom lecturing, but like working with a group of people who may not understand what they're doing, or just to help clarify and see, okay, do they understand what they're doing? And this, for them, it seemed to be working out well, and it seemed to be a good thing for the students, because they did get all of their like questions answered, and really seemed to have a good like understanding of what they were doing during the lesson. And yeah, it's pretty quick, but that was basically what it talked about. And then
because you gave like reasons of why a flipped classroom is good rather than like what a flipped classroom is.
Yeah. I guess that important.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's good. I think we covered everything about flipped classroom this week, and
I think so. It was pretty easy and short.
So Laramie, your lessons next week. So it only has 3 choices for math lessons. So they've already been done. So just probably have to do one again.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
Work at it.
We'll see what one she posts with the lesson next week. It might be different. Oh no, I don't know. It might be a different Google Doc.
I don't know. Maybe she will. I don't know. Because there's only 3 and there's 4 of us, so maybe I don't know. I mean, like all lessons are different, and so
yeah, it'll be delivered differently.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. And then Maya, you're the note taker next week.
Okay.
Yay. Okay. So I think that's everything. So remember, submit the link, copy who started this, Lauren.
Yeah, I did. I got you.
Yeah. So
I'll put it on there right now.
You know what to do. But yeah, anyway, I guess we'll talk next week.
All right.
Fun week.
Out, homies.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, I need to stop.